Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Charles Perot, and I'm with GDIC, and also we have Ab Van here, who will be joining us in just a moment. Want to welcome you to the webinar for the COMET BPA RFP, and this is a as yet not officially announced offering, but there has been pre-solicitation, and there is a fairly involved evaluation process. So it helps to get involved and get familiar with the processes up front. And this webinar will address some of the keys to success for that. So without further ado, let's get into it. Some of the logistics of how we're going to handle the webinar first, and then into the COMET offering itself. First off, what we are presenting today is being recorded, and there will be a link to the recording. This gets sent out via the email that you registered under. So let us know if there's a separate email or alternate email that you prefer, and that link will be added to the list. Please hold your questions. I shouldn't say hold your questions. Questions will be addressed at the end. Feel free to access the chat box, which is on the right side of your screen there, and then the second little dialogue icon there with the spoken cloud and the dots in it. That's your chat, and that will allow you to forward questions to us. Those are going to be addressed at the end during our Q&A section. So I'll let you know by acknowledging your question with a little indicator, but we may not get to actually address it until the end of the hour. And then finally, you can download the presentation itself, the slide deck, the files. There's a file menu also on the right-hand panel, and that allows you to pull down the PowerPoint that we are scrolling through. All right, the reasons for the COMET webinar, and this is kind of a top-down approach to what we're doing here. It pays to step through this because of the response preparation can be a complex process. This one is in 3 stages and actually involves 5 different factors, which we'll get into later. Competition is stiff. There will be multiple submissions from your competitors and then collaborators. So what you want to do is to get involved early in order to get the most familiar with the requirements and address them. Again, the 3 evaluation process, they are contingent. So you're going to progress from stage 1 to stage 2 to stage 3 based on each evaluation. So in order to get to some of your final information, such as your projected budget and so forth, you will need to have already impressed the reviewers with your past performance, and then your technical approach, and then a technical exercise as well. And then there's also many unknowns. If you are new to the process, or you're familiar with a different process, new to this agency, GSA, many different things that you want to get familiar with, and getting an early look is the better way to get yourself prepared. Also, reason for the webinar is because GDI has familiarity with these processes. GDI Consulting has written hundreds of successful proposals, engages a staff of writers that have done hundreds of proposals each. And we can help make the development and evaluation process clear and simple, boiling the requirements down to readable, understandable points that you must address in your submission, and helping to not just evaluate, but to focus on and emphasize those that are the most important. And then we can help you devise your own company's win strategy. Build on your strengths, put your best foot forward, and make your proposal not only compliant, but also compelling. All right, so our goals today, we're going to tackle what is the COMET BPA and the nature of that offering itself. Next will be the requirements for submission, such as they are right now without a finalized RFP. We're also going to tackle the evaluation process. This is that staged review that we were talking about, and also how to maximize your P-win, how to get the right strategy together for each organization, and keeping an eye on the priorities for the evaluation itself. We also want to understand the solution, get a clear picture of the government's needs. You want to stay focused on what it is that they are presenting this offering for, understanding the minimum requirements. Do you have what it takes to address this personally, or do you need to possibly consider a consortium or a joint venture? Understand the 3-step evaluation process. You want to be clear about what you need to present up front in order to progress to some of the later stages of evaluation, to stay in the hunt. Understand what can go wrong in developing the proposal, some of the common mistakes, and Ab will address some of the things that the GDI recommends in order to avoid some common pitfalls that we all have seen become encountered while companies have prepared proposal responses. Some things to avoid, and some things that are not so easy to avoid. We can point out for you. Finally, points to follow: develop a winning proposal. Again, the key is first to be compliant in order to stay in front of the reviewers and to get good consideration. But then you want to be compelling beyond that. What distinguishes you? What gives you the better score? What gets you further along and makes your submission memorable? So today on the agenda itself, we're going to go through the BPA general information. We want to talk about GSA's needs and objectives, the reason for the offering. We're going to get down into the proposal structure briefly, how it is laid out, the evaluation process, so that you understand how the progression goes, partnering, which is a consideration that everyone should entertain, even if you hadn't thought of it initially, and what can go wrong, some of the things that you just want to keep in mind to make sure that you're emphasizing, reiterating, rehearsing, practicing, doing certain things in order to ensure success. The win strategy, which is personalized to your company. That's what we want to get you thinking about is, here's what the problem is, but here's the best path for our group to take it. So long as we're being compliant, let's do what emphasizes our strengths. And finally, we'll finish with the Q&A, and I will be submitting questions that haven't already been answered in Ab's walkthrough to Ab at the end, and he will be addressing some of these particular questions that you've submitted to me. And with that, let me hand this over to Ab Van. Is your mic on, Ab? Hang on 1 second. All right. I think there was a disconnect on the dial inside there, so we're just going to give a short.
Hello, do you hear me?
While Ab comes on, there he is. Okay. Yep. Okay. I can hear you.
Okay. Sorry for that. Okay. Let's continue. Okay. First, we're going to discuss the general information about the GSA COMET BPA. The agency is obviously GSA, General Services Administration. This is still the pre-solicitation, or as they call it, special notice phase. There's no full draft solicitation, and the full RFP hasn't dropped either. And the due date is not known. Some sources say that there might be a draft RFP in April, or they might in fact go directly to the full RFP. That's not known yet. This is the solicitation number, so if you do a search on it on the Federal Business Opportunities website, FBO, you can find it. The contract period is this is a 5-year project, base year, and then 4 option years, for a total of 5 maximum years. This will be a blanket purchase agreement type contract, and it will be under the GSA IT-70 contract vehicle. So you need to be on that contract vehicle to be able to actually submit for this. The number of awards is 5 to 7. And then the set aside, this is a partial set aside. And I will explain what a partial set aside is and how they're going to process it. The NAICS code is 541-511, which is Custom Computer Programming Services. And those were essentially the general information about the COMET BPA. Now, here we want to see what areas they're actually interested. They call them the primary performance objectives of this project, and there are 7 of them. First one is independent assessment, advisory, and consulting services. So this is one of the objectives. They want to see that the contractors can have that performance. And then strategy and transformational framework support services, performance management, software engineering, technology insertion, architecture and design for their system, and search support. So these are the 7 objectives for the COMET BPA that GSA is following up. Okay, let's go into details about the proposal itself. The structure or the volume structure they're asking for is 3 volumes, but the thing is that this is not going to be in one-time basis. Each part of these will be in different steps, which we will get to later. But volume 1 is essentially factor 1, which is past experience. Volume 2 has 2 factors, technical approach and management approach. And volume 3 has 2, the technical challenge exercise and the price. And you have to be invited to volume 2 to be able to actually submit your proposal for volume 2. And then you have to be invited for volume 3 to be able to participate in the technical challenge exercise and provide your price. So these are per selection. So there are going to be a number of rounds of selection by GSA, and if you're selected on that round, then you can advance to the next. Okay, let's see what's in factor 1 past experience. You can show up to 3 examples of recent and relevant past experience, and we'll get to what recent and relevant means. Now, of those 3, one of them can be from a first-tier subcontractor. So you can, in fact, use one project from a subcontractor, first-tier subcontractor. There is a project information sheet that you have to fill out this information. Now, when we say recent and relevant past experience, recent means that the project needs to have been finished within the last 3 years from the RFQ's closing date. So whenever that RFP drops, we'll have to look at the closing date, and then within the last 3 years, that project must have been finished. If you have ongoing projects, then we have to show that they have been ongoing for at least 2 years based on that RFQ, or as they call it, or RFP closing date. Relevant means that, first of all, the project needs to be over $5 million. So you can't use projects that are smaller than $5 million. And then also, and the most important part of this whole past experience is this one, your 3 projects, or how many projects you put, maximum is 3, must cover all the scenarios 1 through 11, which we will get on the next slide. So the main purpose of the past experience factor is to provide between 1 to 3 contracts that show that you have covered these scenarios 1 through 11. and then they have to be over $5 million and completed within the last 3 years or be ongoing for the last 2 years. So this is the requirement for past experience. So let's now go into what those scenarios are. I will read very quickly on those, and you can get that from the documents that GSA has posted on the FBO website. But the 11 scenarios, the first one is experience implementing business system transformations using agile technology and methodology, agile development, delivery, and sustainment process. Second one is at least one contract over $5 million that had a minimum of a team of 15 people across multiple agile teams, and with at least four of the teams on a single application system. Third one is integration between a 3 or more system where at least one system is a custom developed application and one of the others is either a cloud-based SaaS or a cloud-based COTS application. Number 4 is production migration between a legacy and a modernized transformed system or application of 10,000 or more users. Number 5, migration of a mission-critical transactional application or system from an on-premise data center architecture to a cloud-based open source loosely coupled architecture. So that's number 5. 6 is production migration between a legacy and modernized transform system or application, or a greenfield implementation of a cloud-based open source loosely coupled architecture system with 1,000 or more active users on a weekly basis. 7th is delivery of application programming interface, an API for microservices and web-based applications. Now, the two issues that need to be covered there is experience in successful implementation of shared services platform, as well as giving representative examples of how user feedback was captured. So these need to be covered in number 7. 8 is transition and refactoring of application from legacy support models to a development security operations support model. 9 is sustaining microservices web-based applications utilizing a DevSecOps support model. And then 10 is obtain an ATO at the FISMA moderate or a higher level for a publicly available application operating in a FedRAMP certified cloud environment. So it has to be certified by FedRAMP as well. And then the 11th one is providing training, coaching, certification. So these are on the agile methodology. So these are the 11 scenarios that you need to make sure that the maximum 3 contracts that you provide cover all those 3. Okay, let's go to factor 2, technical approach. The technical approach, you have a page limit of 10. This is bad. I'll get back to this, why 10 is bad. And the content is essentially an overview of the proposed solution to meet the functional areas of the PWS that they're spelled out in section C5. This approach should meet one or more of the agile methodologies, explain all the tools, practices, management practices, etc., and clearly demonstrate the roles and responsibilities of the people that are going to do it. Now, this is going to be done in 2 sub-factors. One on an enterprise COTS SaaS implementation. Then you have to do the same for a cloud-native application development and support. So under these 2 sub-factors, you have to explain these. Factor 3 is management approach. 10 pages again, which is not good. Overall management approach, you have to explain. And then in addition to your overall management approach, you have to give your management approach for a sample task order. And they were going to provide that sample task order if you're invited to this section. And under that, there are 5 issues that you need to cover. Staffing plan, including the key personnel identification. You have to specify who the key personnel are. And the names and details of both the key personnel and the non-key personnel. A general org chart, minimum qualifications of key and non-key personnel that are required for this, and then a discussion of the ability to support labor hour surge work. So all of these must go under the sample task order management approach. Okay, now if you're invited to the next section, that's the technical challenge. The technical challenge is a one-day technical exercise. It's going to be performed somewhere in Washington, D.C. They're going to tell us where. I mean, when you're invited, they'll tell you the location. And you're supposed to design, develop, and deploy an application to a cloud environment. The exact requirements will be given to us, to the team when they go to the location. It's going to be videotaped, and you cannot bring in independent contractors. In other words, 1099s are not allowed. The people on the team can be either your own staff or your first-tier subcontractor staff. That's all. So no 1099s. And then you need to develop a minimum viable product, MVP. And then once that's developed, you need to hold a presentation on it on that same day. You have about 6 hours to design and develop and deploy the MVP, and then after that you have the presentation, about a half-hour presentation. Your team can be up to 10 people, but they're expecting that those 10 people are going to also work under the COMET BPA. So if you're awarded. In addition to them, you're supposed to provide a corporate representative at that exercise as well, who's outside the team, who's actually preparing the MVP. And finally, you're supposed to bring all your equipment. And they've said even internet access, which doesn't mean, it's a strange thing that you're supposed to provide your own internet access, but apparently they're going to tell you where the location is, and you can go there before the day to arrange for all the logistics. And Factor 5 price has two sections. General pricing, which is for the BPA as a whole, the 5 years. So you have to fix your prices for all 5 years. You can give different prices for each year, but everything will be fixed. And they can't exceed your FSS contract, the IT 70 schedule contract. The prices you provide can't be more than that. And there are going to be the ceiling rates for the TOs that are going to come under this BPA. And the government is providing a pricing sheet, and you're supposed to fill that out for all the 5 years. If for any reason you want to use another method, you need to provide rationale why you're using, some other price sheet or something else. So that's the general pricing. Now, at the same time, they're going to provide us with a task order at this stage, and you're supposed to provide pricing for that task order. So, and then that pricing that you provide for the task order, that's how you're being, your price section, this Factor 5, is going to be evaluated for the BPA evaluation and the contract. So this second part, the first part is not going to be evaluated for the contract as far as the competition and evaluation factors, but the second part, this task order pricing, is going to be evaluated. And it has a separate called task order pricing spreadsheet that will be sent, and you're supposed to provide the pricing on that. Okay, now let's go through the evaluation process. So those were the 5 factors that were involved in the proposal. Now let's see how that ties in to the evaluation process. The evaluation process has essentially 3 steps and a final 4th one, which I will explain. Step 1 is the Factor 1 past performance. So on Step 1, you only submit Factor 1. You don't submit the others. It needs to cover all those 11 scenarios that we covered. And you're supposed to, when they do the evaluation, you're supposed to get a high confidence mark that you can and have done those 11 scenarios, and that you can do it in the future. And if you're a small business, it has no effect here. So whether they select you to go to step 2 or not, being a small business has no effect here. So everything is dependent on those, on how well you select the contracts and being able to cover those 11 scenarios. If you're selected to go to step 2, they'll send you an email that you know, and they'll also send you that the forms, whatever is needed, and then you go to step 2. Now, step 2, you have factor 2, which is the technical approach, and factor 3, which is the management approach. So you have to prepare those and submit. Now, when they receive that, they are going to consider factor 1, 2, and 3, all of them together. Each of them have equal importance, and then based on all 3 factors, they're going to, which is on a trade-off system, factors 1, 2, 3, they will decide who will go to step 3. So on step 2, after they review your technical approach and management approach, they also consider again your past performance, factor 1, and all of them, all 3, have the same equal importance, and then they make a trade-off and decide who's going to go to step 3. Now, again, if you're a small business, they're not going to consider that at all. So no consideration is given to small businesses here. Okay, if you're invited to go to step 3, they're going to tell you when and where to go for that technical challenge exercise, and they're also going to give you the seed project, so to say, so that you can actually price your project. And what they're going to consider, first they're going to consider factor 4, which is the technical challenge exercise, and then your pricing. But after they do that, they're going to put them all together, 1 to 5, and again do a best trade-off, on all of them. And all of them have equal weight. So factors 1 to 5, at this stage, when they're deciding who to award, factors 1 to 5 all have equal weight. And here again, on giving the awards to the companies, there's no consideration for small businesses. So they award to the best here. Now, after step 3, they'll see if there are any small businesses who've made it to step 3 but haven't been awarded. If there are no small businesses that have made it to step 3, that's it, finished. But if there are some small businesses who have made it to step 3 but have not been awarded, here they start communication with them, they start negotiating with them, and they might select some of them. So this is the set-aside part. Now, the government hasn't said how many set-asides and how many non-set-aside awards they're going to make. The overall picture is between 5 to 7. But this 5 to 7 might be 7, and all of them might be large businesses because no small businesses got to step 3, or perhaps 4 or 5 of them can be small businesses because they got to step 3 and they were better than the others. So there's no, at least they haven't set out any limits for set-asides or non-set-aside awards. So this is the evaluation process. Now let's talk about partnering. Partnering is very important in almost all stages. Let's go through it, why we're saying. First of all, if you're using first-tier subcontractors, as we discussed, in step 1, the experience factor, you can use one contract from your first-tier subcontractors to fill the holes in those 11 scenarios. For example, you might have 2 contracts or even one contract that covers 10 of those or 9 of those, but then you bring in a first-tier subcontractor who has that hole, that missing item, missing scenario, and that way you can cover all 11 scenarios. Remember that all of them must be covered, otherwise you will be disqualified right in step 1. So having a first-tier subcontractor is important, and that's why we decided to actually hold this webinar early, because then companies might have enough time to go and find best fit tier 1 subcontractors. You can use their qualifications and help on step 2, but I think the most important part is also step 3, where you have to participate in that technical challenge exercise. You have to have the best people in that team that participate, that 10-man team. And here again, you can use, GSA has allowed you to use people from your first-year subcontractor. So if you have a really good software programmer or whatever from your first-year subcontractor, you can use them. So this is a good place to actually use them. Remember that, as I said, you can't bring in 1099s or anybody else, either people from your company or your first-year subcontractor for the team that does that technical challenge exercise. If you're thinking of going for CTAs, now in submitting the offer as a CTA, there's one thing that you have to remember. Factor 1 experience projects, I've written better, not must, and I'll explain why. Better be in the name of the CTA rather than in the name of the members. The reason is that if that CTA has done this kind of project before, and you can prove that those 11 scenarios were done by the same CTA previously, GSA is going to give you more weight and better score than if you say, oh, okay, this is a newly formed CTA, and then all the scenarios will come from the members independently. But if you have a CTA that has worked together before on a project, and you use that project as one of the 3 projects, you're going to get more weight. So that's why I've written this as it's better to be the projects, better to be in the ones that the CTA worked on them previously. Now, if you're going to go partnership or JVs, remember that this is the catch. The Factor 1 experience projects, all of them must be in the name of the partnership, not in the name of the members. So you can't form a newly formed JV or partnership, because then the past, those Factor 1 experience projects will not abide to this requirement. So only older JVs and partnerships who have projects in the name of the JV or partnership can actually participate in this one, in this COMET BPA. And also remember that partnership or JV must itself must have a GSA IT70 contract. You can't say that the members have it, but the JV doesn't have it. So this limits a lot how you can use JVs. But I think first-tier subcontractors is the easiest way to go for this, unless you have some problems with that. Then perhaps CTAs might be another substitution for that. Okay, now let's see what can go wrong in your pursuit of this opportunity and going after the proposal. Step 1, obviously not covering all scenarios. In other words, for any reason, you're not able to cover all 11. And that's why partnering is so important here, and perhaps even having 1 or 2 subcontractors as spare for each other, just in case one drops, you have the other one. So this is something that you really need to make sure you cover, 11 scenarios. And of course, those projects need to be recent, so that 3-year completion, or if it's ongoing, 2-year performance, and relevant, which means 5 million and also covering the 11. So those are the things that you need to really make sure are correct in step 1. Step 2 is weak technical and or management approach narratives. You really need to work on those 10 pages for the technical and the management approach, and really make them shine, because that's the only factor that GSA is going to look at, and then either they decide to move you to step 3 or stop there. So it's really important to have those 2 times 10 pages really shine. Now, this is where I want to stop and discuss underestimating the complexity of 10-page limits. As a proposal writer, if you tell me write a proposal that is 10-page and compare it to write a proposal that is 50-page, I would say the 50-pager is much, much easier to write. A 10-page proposal is extremely hard to write because you have to really work on every single word that you're putting on that page, because you have a lot of stuff to actually explain. You want to make sure that you're fully compliant. You want to make sure that you have the highest quality proposal, either technical or management approach, and they're asking for a lot of information as well that we did cover, but you're supposed to do that all in 10 pages. So it is a very hard and difficult thing to do, and so that's what I'm saying. Don't underestimate the complexity of those 10 pages. I wish there were 30 or 50 pages. 10 pages are really hard to write. Okay, so assume that you are lucky and get to step 3. Now here I think the important thing is the team that you're going to put for that technical challenge, because the pricing part I don't think is that much difficult, and most companies can come up with the proper pricing. Excuse me. So there are 2 factors here. One is competent team members. So you really need to pick best team members. Now these can come from your company or your first-tier subcontractor. But at the same time, the second item that I've written, you might have the best team, but if they haven't worked together, they're newly formed, they just don't have the systems to work properly as one unit, this is doomed to a defeat. So I mean, this team needs to really be able to work together, and that is very important to consider. So these are what can, from our perspective of proposal writing, can go wrong. Now, based on those, this is our overall and general win strategy that we are proposing to our clients and to anybody who's listening to this webinar. First of all, partner to get past step 1, because most companies might not have all the 11 scenarios covered well, but with partnering and finding the best fit partner, you can do that. So partnering is very important, and for step 1 to be able to go to step 2, it's very important to go after and pick the best fit partner, and perhaps even a spare one just in case, a backup one. Okay, now another thing that we want is to maximum effort to writing quality technical and management approaches. So put the maximum you can in those. This part, in other words, step 2, is essentially your writing capability. It has nothing to do with your past performance or price or how you write, your team for the technical challenge or anything like that. Essentially, this is writing. So you really need to shine. Based on that, our suggestion is outsource the proposal writing talent, use extra technical SMEs. Even if you have in-house SMEs, bring in more SMEs so they review and review and review. And then finally use an agency SME. Let me explain what I mean by agency SME. Many times it's really important to have knowledge about what the government really wants, what they're looking for. Well, they have spelled it out. I think if you have, there's a video of a industry meeting they held, GSA held. And if you don't have it, write to us. We'll send you the link, but it's on their website, on the FPO website. It's quite heavy, 600 meg, I think. But I mean that exists still. I think having somebody who has worked at GSA or knows their stuff, perhaps a program manager, a contracting officer, an analyst, or anything like that, can really help you when reviewing these parts. So that's what we usually do for our clients. We bring in what we call agency SMEs, depending on the agency they're aiming for. And this gives us, inside knowledge, pain points, and all of that. So that is something that you should consider in this one too for the technical and management approaches. Assuming that you get past that, then this is another thing that for the step 3, put together your strongest team for the technical challenge. Use your subs staff as well, but here it is: rehearse, rehearse, and rehearse before that time. You can't take a team there who's never worked together before and who don't know what to work on. You need to come up with possible scenarios that the government is going to ask for you, and then rehearse on those. The RFP says that they will give you 7 days of notice when they want you to come and rehearse. Come and do the exercise. 7 days is usually not enough. So if you go to step 2 and you're confident of your technical and management approaches, you should start those rehearsals of your team right then and be prepared so that when they give you the go-ahead, 7 days is nothing. So you need to be prepared beforehand. So these are the points that you really need to resolve and take care of in order to have a winning proposal. Now, what we can provide to you in case you want, we can help in step 1 and 2 in terms of the proposal development. We can do reviewing and auditing of step 1 and 2. So you might have your internal proposal shop, but we can do reviewing and auditing for you. And we can also, in case you're short of people, we can provide staff augmentation, proposal managers, writers, SMEs, technical SMEs, agency SMEs, all of these we can provide. And of course, we always have free consultations. So feel free to call us or email us and set up a time, and we can provide that. So with that, essentially, my discussion is finished on this webinar. And when you get the slides, these are the telephone numbers and emails of the people that you can contact on our organization if you have any questions, you want anything from us. And we can go to the Q&A now. Charles, please.
Okay. Well, it looks like we have kind of a shy group here. We've haven't seen a lot of questions coming through here, so I'll invite anybody once again to forward your questions on the presentation. I know there's some stuff to digest here, but if you need any other clarification about what the subcontractor information or so forth. Here we go. We're seeing one come through. Do all members of the CTA or all prime and subcontractors have to demonstrate scenario 10? That's for a specific scenario, but you'll probably address that in terms of all scenarios, right?
Charles, can you repeat, please?
Yes, it says, do all members of the CTA or all prime and subcontractors have to demonstrate scenario 10?
No, as far as they've said so far, each even scenario 10, all of them can be covered in one. So you might have just one contract from you or from one of the CTA members, and it covers everything. That's fine. So it's not that all the CTA members must cover one of the projects. No, that's not the case.
Okay. Anyone else want to take advantage of the opportunity here to just field a couple of questions? They can be fundamental questions about dealing with GSA or what GDI's value added is in these situations, the resources that we bring to the table, but also any of the details that were brought up on the slideshow itself.
Okay, one thing that people can actually do is, if you don't have any questions now, you can always email us with your questions as they develop. And I'm sure that the government is going to put out more documents, perhaps, more explanations, and we will certainly be happy to help you with any questions that you might have on those as well. I do want to say that, again, I did mention it, but there is a very good video of the industry meeting that GSA held last year. The PowerPoint slides are there, and the video itself is there. So it's very good to actually be able to listen to that, because it does tell you exactly what they're looking for as far as the type of work that they're going to do. So you get a feel of it. They do not cover much about the proposal itself. That's why we held this webinar. They go more into detail of what they need after you're awarded. But I think it's a very good, it gives you a very good idea of what the government is going after. So I do recommend everybody to actually watch that video. And if you don't know where that is, just ask us, and we'll be able to send you the link.
We do have one further question here. Someone has mentioned a reiteration of is this opportunity, this bid, all or none? And if I interpret this wrong, let me know. But as in all or none, meaning must you meet all criteria in that first step and each subsequent step to progress?
Yes, exactly. In other words, I mean, say you cover 10 of the scenarios and don't cover the 11th, that's it, you're out. So then you go to step 2, and for any reason, one of the two approaches, technical or management, has problems, and they decide to put you aside. That's it. In other words, you can't then come back later and say, my price was good. If you're out of step 2 and don't get to step 3, doesn't matter what your price is going to be, it's not going to help. So that's the way they're going to go. Step 1, then step 2, then step 3, and then if you're not awarded on step 3 but are a small business, they're going to open negotiations with you. That's the process.
Okay. So once again, if you do have questions that occur to you afterwards, maybe after you review the slides or re-listen to the presentation, you can certainly email those in and we'll address those. But I think that brings us to the end of our session for today.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.